Welcome to Intuitive Defense. My name is Baker. In this video, I'll be talking about a current event that focuses on the ignorance of politicians' recent statements as it pertains to guns, more specifically how they function and their attachments. Before getting into the videos of politicians saying really silly things, understand they use this information or these talking points in an attempt to actively limit the freedoms and rights of the American people who choose to exercise their Second Amendment right. They make these matter-of-fact style statements as a way to demonstrate why a certain object should not be owned by certain people because of how dangerous it is. But in all reality, the only thing they demonstrate is their lack of knowledge on a topic. Their ignorance does not prevent them from selling their talking points to other people who are just as ignorant on the same topic as them. This then becomes regurgitated by other people who are too lazy to do their own research or who are emotionally loyal to a particular agenda regardless of how inaccurate the information is. This eventually snowballs into a version of their own truth that becomes a steadfast talking point used by other, what's the word I'm looking for? Idiots. Yeah, by other idiots. By the time the facts and truth finally filter through, it does not matter. The damage has already been done and the majority of the people have already forgotten the lies that were said. Unfortunately, most politicians are never held accountable for their actions or their words. To help steer a narrative in a particular direction, many politicians say whatever they want or say whatever they need on a particular subject without any correction of facts. If you are on the side of further infringement of freedoms and rights, you are okay with that. If you are on the side of less infringement of freedoms and rights, you are not okay with that. At the moment, a large population of people within society seem to not only want less freedoms and rights, but they support the deceptive means in which politicians and government strip people of their freedoms and rights. It is not in the interest of the people to encourage government to become larger and more controlling. Power gained by government is power lost by the people. Just because some people don't want to use their freedoms and rights doesn't mean they have the authority to prevent me from using mine or you from using yours. Just because a freedom and right exists doesn't mean you have to use it. That choice is up to you. The important part is the freedom and right stays in place in the event you ever decide to use it. In episode 1 of Current Events, I talked about the pistol stabilizing brace and how the actions of the government to control the object is an infringement of rights. If you have not seen it, I would encourage you to watch that video. There will be a link to that video in the description of this video. Anyway, I bring that up because we're going to talk about it again. Not so much the infringement aspect of it, but the willful ignorance of some politicians who are putting out incorrect information. They either did it intentionally, which means they are knowingly deceiving people using lies, or they do not have any knowledge on the topic and are just saying words to say words. Blah, 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 blah. Either way, it is a problem, especially since they are using this information as justification to limit and reduce freedoms and rights. If they are lying, they should be immediately removed from their position and held accountable, both civilly and criminally, for deprivation of rights. If they do not have the knowledge on the topic, they should not be representing themselves as a subject matter expert, and their statements should not be used as justification for any part of law since they are ignorant on what they are proposing. Why would you want someone who is either lying or has no idea what they are talking about to create law or advocate for the creation of law that will negatively affect millions of people? If a law is put in place, I want the creators of that law to know exactly what they are talking about and to fully understand the implementation process of that law. As it stands, there are a lot of stupid politicians in powerful positions that have the ability or influence to put into place policy and or law that will negatively affect people or society. These same politicians, some of whom I wouldn't trust to boil water without screwing it up, are somehow in charge of dictating my freedoms and rights. It used to be politics was a job and politicians were selected by the people because they were trusted to properly represent them. They were knowledgeable and worked to the benefit of the people, and once their job was done, they went back to their life. Now, politics is a career where they are selected by whomever because they will work to the benefit of lobbyists, corporations, big donors, or fill in the blank. The people have become an afterthought, which is why the people are getting crushed. There is a reason why the majority of politicians leave office wealthier than when they entered. As we look at some of these videos, there will be talking points that are relevant to this particular video, but I'm focusing more on the pistol stabilizing brace right now. In an effort to keep this video shorter, my explanation for some of the other talking points will be brief. because I plan on discussing them more in depth in future current event episodes. Up first is Congresswoman Shiela Jackson Lee, Democrat out of Texas. She's a wealth of willful ignorance. She just recently, in June of 2023, gave a lecture on why she defends the ATF pistol stabilizing brace rule. Let's watch.
This really is about saving lives.
Well, that didn't take long for me to find a stopping point. As she claims, this really is about saving lives. No, it's not. If it was, she would be pushing for laws that target violent criminals, not law-abiding citizens. This is more about control than it is about saving lives.
8 children a day die from gun violence. In addition, 40,000 Americans die from gun violence throughout the year.
Not diminishing the tragedy of deaths, but because she is using this information as a way to limit the freedoms and rights of law-abiding people who choose to exercise their Second Amendment right for protection, it is important that she is correct. Her number of 8 children dying a day from gun violence, although horrible, is wrong, because those numbers factor in age groups from 1 to 19 years of age, so includes adults. Therefore, it is not just children like she claims, and should be less than 8. I'll be getting more into depth on that talking point in episode 4 of Current Events. Depending on the year, the firearm-related deaths are between 40,000 and 48,000+, so she is actually under on that number. That being said, more than half of those numbers are related to suicide. I will discuss the number breakdown in a future Current Events episode.
I want to thank Congressman Thompson of California for making clear what we're saying here today. A veteran can buy a brace any day of the year. We love and respect and admire our veterans. But at the same time, we respect our first responders, police officers, and firefighters and others who are on the front line, or former combat officers who say that we don't need automatic weapons in the hands of civilians. There's no hunting purpose, there's no purpose.
First, a pistol, or a pistol equipped with a pistol stabilizing brace, or a short barrel rifle, SBR, has nothing to do with an automatic weapon. Second, automatic firearms are already a controlled item under the National Firearms Act, NFA. In order for a law-abiding citizen to own an automatic firearm, they have to pay money, along with fill out and submit paperwork, essentially requesting permission from the government to own it. Criminals do not pay the government any money and do not request any permission to use automatic weapons. They just do it. Third, the Second Amendment is not about hunting. Therefore, your statement here is absolutely pointless.
You haven't lived until you see a shootout in your district between a criminal with a ghost gun against police officers. That is what we're trying to prevent. I don't want to see that in Houston, Texas ever again.
I guarantee she has not seen a shootout between a criminal and a police officer using a ghost gun, but she is going to make it sound like she has first-hand experience with it. Also, a ghost gun does not make a gun any more or less dangerous. It just means that it does not have a serial number from a manufacturer, which can make it more difficult for law enforcement to track if the firearm is stolen or used in a crime. She is just saying this because a ghost gun sounds so much more frightening to a person who knows nothing about guns, like Shiela Jackson Lee herself. I'm sure if you asked her, she would say it is at least 11,000% more dangerous because of the ghost capabilities. Also, a pistol stabilizing brace, or a stock, or a barrel has nothing to do with the dangers of the oh so terrifying ghost gun.
You can buy the brace without a background check. But when it becomes a dangerous weapon, when that brace changes the gun's legal status and makes it, in essence, the same that caused a mass shooting at a Boulder, Colorado supermarket, the stabilizing brace made and a shorter barrel made a pistol under federal gun regulations. And so saving lives is why I'm standing here on the floor.
The stupidity is strong in this one. She said you can buy the brace without a background check. Yeah, obviously, the brace is not a firearm. Therefore, a background check is not required, which is why you can buy a brace without a background check. The brace itself is just a piece of plastic and is considered an accessory since it does not dramatically alter the way a pistol functions or fires. Because of this, the brace is free from NFA restrictions, or it used to be. With all due respect, Congresswoman, this is not rocket surgery, so stop trying to make it sound so dramatic. Moving on. The brace does not make the firearm a pistol. It was already a pistol. It also does not change legal status. Well, it used to not change legal status, but since the ATF arbitrarily created a new rule, it does now. But that is a recent change and not applicable to what she is referencing when talking about the shooting in Boulder, Colorado. You can tell as she is talking and pointing at things on her visual aid, she is also trying to decipher what it means. She also keeps pulling the sign closer to her like the information she is searching for will magically jump off the sign and into her brain. This is why it also appears she gives an information-confirming glance to someone right after saying all that dumb shit.
Regulations.
She clearly has no idea what she's talking about, but is very passionate about restricting a pistol-stabilizing brace. The infringement of freedoms and rights suck, especially when it is at the hands of stupid people. But wait, there is more. Her masterpiece of ignorance comes from a press briefing she did in September of 2019.
I've held an AR-15 in my hand. I wish I had it. It is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving.
Huh. I didn't realize that moving boxes were an official unit of measurement, but I guess they are.
And the bullet that is utilized, a 50 caliber, these kinds of bullets, need to be licensed and do not need to be on the streets.
When it comes to the AR-15, there is a 50 Beowulf, but that is not what she's talking about here. If I had to guess, she has absolutely no idea what she's talking about or saying. She's just throwing words out there and hoping they scare people. Let's take a look at another individual who strongly opposed pistol stabilizing braces. This is Representative David Cicilline, Democrat out of Rhode Island, during a House committee hearing in July of 2022.
Stabilizing brace, which is depicted here, when attached here, it turns this weapon into an automatic weapon. It becomes a bump stock. And so it will allow that to essentially be fired like an automatic weapon. That's the danger. So I have to very strongly oppose the amendment.
Here, he confused a pistol stabilizing brace with a bump stock. But, in typical political fashion, he does not let the lack of factual information prevent him from strongly supporting a ban on all pistol stabilizing braces. This dummy is another individual who has no idea what he's talking about, but he vigorously pushes talking points and agendas that will infringe on the freedoms and rights of the American people. Thankfully, he wasn't the only person lost that day. Representative Lucy McBath, Democrat out of Georgia, courageously threw herself on the altar of ignorance to proclaim herself an experienced person in the pistol stabilizing brace of automatic fire.
I've had a lot of experience and, of course, working with gun safety experts and gun violence prevention organizations over the years, and I understand very, very well what this does, what this brace does. That's the reason why we had a piece of legislation that would effectively ban bump stocks. And so what you're determining here is that you're trying to substitute using this piece here, that arm brace, as a means of saying that for individuals that have disabilities, this gives them more stability to be able to use the gun. But in fact, it can actually be used to help facilitate the weapon as a bump stock. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and relinquish the rest of my time to Representative Cicilline to explain even further. But there again, we need to reject this amendment simply because there's no way to differentiate the person that actually buys this stabilizing device, whether or not they really are disabled, or they might actually use it to accessorize that gun as an assault weapon.
Yep. Yeah, that was a plethora of information. She apparently has a lot of experience and knowledge about the use of a pistol stabilizing brace and how it can be used as a bump stock. Therefore, she wants to reject the amendment because she doesn't know if the person buying a brace is disabled or just someone who is going to accessorize that gun as an assault weapon. Cool. Before completely impaling herself on the sword of stupidity, she did the honorable thing and gave the sword to Representative Cicilline so he could become a martyr of ignorance by his own hand.
I just want to reaffirm what Ms. McBath just said. This stabilizing brace, when coupled with a buffer tube, operates as a bump stock. Bump stocks are prohibited in this legislation for all the obvious reasons. This is attempting to exploit a design flaw for persons with disabilities and use it to convert this into a bump stock, which will obviously make the weapon increasingly dangerous and easier for someone to fire. That's the reason this amendment should be defeated. I yield back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. I'm getting a headache. I'm getting a headache now. That's good. Anyways, when given the opportunity to clean up his statement with factual information, he doubled down on dumb, like he's Lloyd Christmas.
You know, Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this.
What I have learned over the years is people don't have to be intelligent to be politicians. Now I get it. Politicians have a lot going on, and I'm sure there's a learning curve when it comes to some of the hearings that they have, along with other tasks going on top of processing all of the information, which can be difficult and challenging and probably near impossible at times. That being said, when it comes to limiting freedoms and rights through new legislation, ignorance of information is not an excuse. These people contributed to millions of Americans being classified as a person in possession of a restricted item, brace, which could be an arrestable felony offense. They intentionally pushed inaccurate, misleading, and false information that ultimately has placed millions of people in a no-win situation. On to the professor of ignorance himself.
Made it harder for people to buy stabilized braces. Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun.
In case you didn't catch it, he said, put a pistol on a brace, it turns it into a gun.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Yeah, pretty much the same person.
Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun.
What he said is that just by placing a pistol stabilizing brace on a pistol, you can now shoot a different caliber. Well, I guess you could. But if you do not change the barrel or the bolt, along with other modifications, depending on the caliber, there is a very high probability that weapon will only fire that new caliber one time, if at all. The addition or removal of a pistol stabilizing brace has nothing to do with what caliber that firearm can shoot. These statements from the President of the United States were made at the National Safer Communities Summit in West Hartford, Connecticut in June 2023, about 10 years after the first pistol stabilizing brace from SB Tactical came to the market. Given the amount of discussion and continuous pursuit of gun laws, there is absolutely no justifiable reason he or anyone else in his position of leadership or influence pushing to ban the pistol stabilizing brace should be this factually inaccurate with information involving this item. As I see it, he either does not have the cognitive ability to factually discuss this item, or he is intentionally lying to justify further infringement of freedoms and rights as it pertains to the Second Amendment. Both of these options are very concerning.
It's essentially turned it into a short barrel rifle, which has been a weapon of choice by a number of mass shooters.
The pistol stabilizing brace has nothing to do with short barrel rifles, SBRs, or shootings. He makes it sound as though if the brace was illegal at the time the shooting occurred, the murderer would not have murdered because he would have not wanted to break the law by having a brace attached to his weapon while shooting people. Yeah. Okay. What he is in fact doing is vilifying the brace and contributing it as the primary cause of death. He is using fear and lies about a piece of plastic to justify government overreach with a law that specifically targets law-abiding citizens. This next video is not about a brace or even a recent statement, but it does highlight the dangers of stupid people using wrong information as fact to justify arbitrary laws, which is why I decided to include it in this video. This is Senator Kevin DeLeon out of California doing a press briefing in January 2014 on the dreaded ghost gun.
This is a ghost gun. This right here has ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second. 30 magazine clip in half a second.
Just in case you're still processing what he said, here it is again. A 30 caliber clip that will disperse 30 bullets within a half a second. 30 magazine clip in half a second. Wealth of knowledge this guy is. He has another truth nugget he wants to drop on us before going back to the land of make-believe.
Which is an automatic sniper weapon that is used by our troops in the military in Afghanistan.
What? Sniper! Those are my observations and opinions. Even if you don't support the Second Amendment, you should be wholeheartedly against the President of the United States, along with other elected officials, intentionally seeking to deprive people of their freedoms and rights through the use of lies. It will only be a matter of time until he or they lie about freedoms and rights you do support. We should all agree that ignorance is not a trait we want in leaders. So what do you think? Are the actions and statements of these individuals justifiable? Do you think they just had a temporary loss of knowledge? Or do you think they are intentionally deceiving the people they supposedly represent? Let us know in the comment section of this video. Also, we have this video as an article on our Intuitive Defense website that has all the source information. The link to that article is in the description of this video. Lastly, we're working on building the Intuitive Defense channel and have lots of ideas for upcoming videos, along with continued videos for our noob series. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel for future content. Some of it might be less annoying than listening to elected potatoes talk. To dumb politicians, stop being dumb. I don't want to overcomplicate this last part of the message with big words, so I'll just keep it very simple for you to understand. Stop. Dumb. You.